the different conversations, I feel like that sometimes they run together, but when I have with different folks, is that I know there's kind of a different conversations going on. Oh, wrestling's now. I heard this the other day, Conrad, just because the world of entertainment is so much bigger, and although revenues may be up in those numbers, wrestling's more niche than ever. Let me stop there. Do you buy into that, Conrad?
That wrestling's more niche than ever.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to expand on it with things like that Vegas commercial and Joe Tessitore and Pat McAfee. I think they're trying to make it less niche, but yes, it is a niche. Right now, it is a niche. Like I have this argument all the time with people because they say wrestling's not more popular than ever, and I'm like, or I say today is WWE's business is bigger today than ever before, and people want to argue that, and they say, well, it's not as popular. Okay, based on what? Based on pop culture? Because you don't walk into Walmart and see that they have the T-shirts there. I get that, but I'm saying back then you couldn't just look at your phone, click a button, and it's in your mailbox in 2 days. That's all changed. So I do think, as far as the influence on mainstream, maybe there is less casual fans watching. Maybe there are fewer eyeballs watching domestically, but it's bigger globally, and the people who are in it, like those casual fans that were all watching, those 10 million people who were watching wrestling every Monday night, were they buying action figures for the most part? No. Were they buying merch for the most part? No. In that era, if you didn't go to Walmart, you had to wait until they came to your town in order to attend a show and buy it, or you had to mail a check and check your mail in 6 weeks and hope it showed up. Like all of that has changed. So I think the fans who are wrestling fans now are more engaged than ever, are more passionate than ever, are spending more money than ever. I look at the amount of money my friends who are my wrestling friends, like Pondwater Dave, you know Pondwater. You
Oh,
take a look at the amount of money he was spending on wrestling in, say, 1998, and he might buy the pay-per-views. But now you take a look at what he's doing. He's got a whole gimmick room with every sort of damn tchotchke and Funko there is for a Von Erich or a Flair or whatever. I mean, that's he's just buying shit and stacking it from the baseboards to the ceiling. And he was not doing that in 98. So I think that there's more money to be made because we're super serving the base. And I think the base is way more engaged, but I do think there are less casuals. And I think that's why they're trying to get the Joe Tessitore's and the Pat McAfee's, the Netflix steals and all that stuff going.
and I think we're playing wordsmith and word salad because niche, and I because like what do we mean, or what is that? What really is that? So another question I had for you: do you think? And I'm just going to pick one of the four, but in NFL there's all 1,000. But let's just use NHL. Is NHL a niche sport?
Yes.
Okay, baseball a niche audience?
Um, Not as much. Soccer in America is a niche.
Yeah, even smaller. I think that's where I'm trying to cut this piece of the pie.
Yeah.
I'm going to the flip side. I think, and just kind of just rambling off the top of my, and look, there's 1,000 different ways we could make examples of this. But if you look at Peacock, if you look at general entertainment, we're on TBS on 2 hours Wednesday, 1 hour Friday, 2 hours on Saturdays, 5 hours of network TV. To me, that's not really niche. I'm going to use, Logan Paul comes from a streaming world. I mean, there's just, I mean, and he's full time in it. AEW programs had anybody from Shaq to, I mean, we could go on and on with the celebrity involvement. My man Jelly Roll was involved. He Nashville boy, Toby back in the day, just all the different things that have continued to roll along. But I'll say now that I believe front and center that yes, the territory days, it was Saturday mornings and a live event business. But since it went national, I'll say mid 80s, and now here we are 30, 40 years later. I just, yes, on the one hand, what is the definition of niche? But I believe there's more folks in America. Again, wordsmith and word salad. What is a casual fan? What is a hardcore fan? We're supersizing all this. just all but I just think wrestling is now. People say, "Oh no, they're more mainstream." I think we're more mainstream now than ever. I really sincerely believe that, because if professional wrestling isn't mainstream, Conrad, tell me what is. Because when you look at the genres of music,
Well, I think everybody looks like the NFL and the NBA, and they say, okay, the NFL and the NBA, that's as big as it gets. I
okay,
think the NBA
is a yeah.
a stratosphere different here in America for the NFL, but globally, the NBA has a bigger appeal. But if we throw it in our Google machine, it says niche is defined as a specialized segment of the market for a particular kind of product or service. I think wrestling is that. I don't think wrestling's for everyone, but I even want to ask you about, would you rather have a really strong niche or would you rather have those casuals? And I want to ask you about that. Matter of fact, let me ask you now, and I want you to think about your answer. We all agree more people were watching wrestling than ever before in 1998. And I know they were doing great arena business, and I know they were selling a lot of pay-per-view, but boy, they're making a lot more money now. As far as the longevity of your business, would you rather have the stronger bottom line with a smaller audience, which means if some of that smaller audience erodes, your business can start to circle the drain? Or would you rather have the much larger audience that maybe is not as financially invested? Meaning there were a whole lot of people who were watching Monday Night Raw who never buy a shirt, who never buy an action figure, who never buy a pay-per-view, but they watch. But are they going to be able to translate that into other dollars? Your dad grew up in a time and you grew up in a business where, hey, we're doing TV for free. And when I say free, I mean even the boys ain't getting paid, because we're hoping that this becomes an advertisement to get you to spend money. But back then, certainly the arenas were doing well, but they can't sell more than the building can hold, if that makes sense. So when it's sold out, it's sold out. There is a real ceiling to how you can grow your business there with the casuals who are just going to see a show every now and again. So by and large, the majority of them did not. Would you rather have the bigger audience, which almost feels like a tech company? Think about, we've all heard for years, oh, well, we're pre-revenue, but we've got 6 million subscribers. To old country boys like me and Jeff, who are used to running a small business, it's like, hey, pre-revenue means you ain't making no money, right? It means you can't pay your bills, right? It means you're living on other people's money to keep building this subscriber base. And we just hope one day we make money on it, right? I think I would go with I super serve the niche and let's make money on those who were here. Yes, it's a smaller audience, but we can capitalize on that better. I ran a similar experiment when I was advertising my mortgage company on the radio. I could get on like a top 40 station that had a huge 100,000 watt signal, and I'd have to pay for every set of ears that heard it. But there's a lot of 12-year-old girls listening to the radio who didn't need mortgages. Therefore, I'm wasting my money talking to them. If I went with a much smaller sports talk radio and an AM signal on a little tiny stick that not a lot of people can hear, but those people who could hear, they didn't change the channel when a commercial came on because they were the only sports talk station in town. So we're going to ride it out. It was a smaller, but a more passionate fan base. I got a return on the sports station. I never reordered on the top 40 station on the big stick. I want you to think about in wrestling, if you were to spin up and launch your own new company next year, would you want to start with a bigger audience or super serve that audience? And as you think about it, so Jeff, well, I mean, when you really think about, hey, what's more important? I mean, I know that some people are going to say, what are you talking about? Well, the internet makes such a big deal about how many people are watching Dynamite. I mean, every week it's like, oh, it's 671 this week. Can you believe it? Those are people who are watching a free show, guys. Like, I don't know that we talk about this enough, but here's a spoiler. If 2 million people watch that show this Wednesday, Tony Khan doesn't make any more money. Now, I know you're saying to yourself, oh, but can help him on his next deal. Okay, that's fair. Eventually, maybe. But the rumor and innuendo is, and we don't know, that he already has another offer. The offer's been made. But I'm saying while internet wrestling fans are living and dying based on how many people watch a show, as a reminder, they paid zero. None of that affected the AEW bottom line. So, but we all fixate on it. We fascinate on it. And we all talk about it. And I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that's the reality of it. It's not like, oh, well, 100,000 extra watch this week, we get a bonus. It doesn't work that way. But how many people are buying AEW shirts? How many people are buying AEW action figures? How many people are buying the AEW video game? How many people are buying tickets to an AEW show? How many people are buying AEW pay-per-views? Those are all revenue metrics. How many people are watching the free TV show? You already have a deal. Whether 1,000 people watch it or 1,000,000 people watch it, you're getting the same. And I know some smart ass is going to say, oh, but they could cancel. Yes, they could. They could also stop buying the fucking pay-per-views. So I'm just curious from your perspective, because it is important. In order to sell a bunch of pay-per-views, we got to have a bunch of people watch the show. In order to sell a bunch of merch, we got to have a bunch of people watch the show. I get that. But we had more people watching the show in 1998, and we're making more money now. So chat me up from your perspective, Jeff. It's sort of chicken and the egg. Where do you land on this?
Well, Connie, and I remembered his name's Tyler Roney. He's the weatherman, but also he came to the show on Saturday night. But when I was doing my media day, I also did it at the on-air host was not Denzel, but he is the GM of the rock station, Conrad, #1 in the market. Matter of fact, they still do radio books. But anyway, then we, as you can imagine, Conrad, I get into conversations about sales and how's it doing. He said, well, and just what you said, it's not as easy to sell on a rock station as if you go to Top 40 and there's women's products. And so you get into just the radio station group. Do they want to own and be #1 in the market? Sure. But what they really want to do is have a station that can sell a lot of ads. And, going all the way back to Memphis TV, my old man used to say, and the books would come out, sweeps weeks would be May and November. And look, ratings are a barometer, not the barometer. For those guys, territory days, it was all about how many live tickets we could sell. Go through the 90s, you just said, oh, more people were watching. Okay, but did they monetize it? No. Look at the Raw deal in the 90s and WCW. I don't know what the cook in the books were, if you will, but what did they value? Eric could probably tell us a lot better. Then the rights deals come into play. And now, the rights deals, are everything, but they're not just counting the linear numbers. And I'm saying TBS, TNT, USA, everything that goes with all that. Now it's okay, 671, I think is what you just said, or whatever it is. Well, wait a minute. Isn't that a top 5 number? So relatively speaking, not the barometer, but a barometer, that's pretty damn good. If out of all the shows on TV, it's top 3, top 5, top 10, all that. But did we account for YouTube numbers? And did we account for shit, Conrad? I've told you so many times. Cody watches Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, Raw, SmackDown, Impact, all on highlights. He consumes it all through, and he came in last night talking Ethan Page from the AEW. He's an Ethan Page fan, but just that's how. So it's just a completely different set of. No, there's many more barometers. So to answer your question, Conrad, I know you know the answer to this is that, as you said, the old country boys, I have that habit of liking to eat, and they do not take promises at Publix anymore. Or I don't think they ever had. You got to pay with cash. And so you got to have.
Wait. You can't buy groceries with Google Trends. You can't pay utility bills with retweets. Is that what you're saying right now?
Well, I think you're picking up.
I don't know. Might be suspect at best.
But it's crazy. But again, it goes back to they show a photo online and everybody, it appears when haywire. You can't put that out there. I mean, it's in our topical list to discuss. And I've loved these kind of podcasts, Conrad. I freaking absolutely love them because we kind of bounce all over the place. But your question is one that I believe in boardrooms across America, and I'm getting outside of wrestling. It's because there's big money deals being done on hopes and promises of, or would you call it pre-profit? That's
we're pre-revenue.
What?
We're in a growth strategy. We've got a 6 million user base, and our run rate is only at $1 million a week. So We feel like by 2040, we'll have an algorithm that allows us to sell ads and get a return.
And I do think that some of that can play into it, but at the end of the day, super serving, and that was where I was going to go. That when I think about my action figure, he's recently out, and boy, Connie, getting some offers come in. That figure's signing. But when I think about the ways to monetize, and I think there was a little Twitter thing about Conrad. You put something out about, I think Cody's robe or something being sold, and I don't know if you said something to the fact picture money. Well, the streams of picture money are very very diverse nowadays, and again, it's another barometer and how to monetize the audience. So yes, at the end of the day, wrestling was niche, if you want to call it that, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all the way up to 2024. There's just many more ways to monetize this niche, down to a freaking stream of a highlight of something that happened 20 years ago. Because there was a clip recently of me and Bret Hart's Raw match, and the whole, I think it was a 15-minute Raw match, but the whole match was kind of concise down to like a 3-minute highlight deal. I'm thinking, I wonder if this guy's monetizing this. But anyway, Conrad, super serve your audience, and I just don't think it's the hardcores. You just, whatever your audience is, just super serve them, and that's the way to go. I don't know. I think it's a no-brainer, honestly.
I mean, think about just what we've seen in college football. I mean, we're going to move on, but it wasn't that long ago. There were no luxury boxes at college
Oh
stadiums.
my gosh.
Everybody sat their ass on a hot ass metal bench and stood in line to buy a warm beer and piss in a trough and hope you got out of there alive. And now, man, we got big screens and we got our own private toilet and they got waitresses. We got a wait staff in here and there's a buffet. There's a goddamn carving station at the game. Like, I took my dad to a game the first time in like a luxury suite, and there's a dude in a funny fucking hat cutting turkey. And my dad's like, what's going, I thought we were watching football. Like, what's happening? But that it's evolved. And the result is people are paying a lot more for those tickets. They realized, they'd pay more if we put that little fucker in a hat over there and gave him a turkey breast and let him go to town. Like that, those are things that you can do to monetize.
Yes.
And now they're doing that not just for big schools, they're doing that in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Yes.
Like,
So, and
it's not UCLA or Miami.
Well, and you know what? To dial it kind of back into wrestling, I remember. So we would do at TNA, we would have our live event runs, and this in the early days, Gotti. I mean, 05, 06. And so Don West would take off Mondays. The accounting would get done on Monday, but Don would come in Tuesday, and he's always would knock on the door and stick his head in. Hey man, what are you doing for lunch? What are you doing for lunch? Don, I'm going with you today, pal. And we'd come down, and Don was so conversational, and he's like, all right, here's what I'm thinking. But it would always dial back to, Jeff, we've got to overserve these folks. All they want is more. You've got them to the building, and he would say, no disrespect, but that's how your old man thought. He just wanted to sell them a ticket. I want to go much further about that. And when he laid out, I think I've kind of gone into this. He's like, man, if we can have a Hardy party, and the Hardy party was a meet and greet of literally, Jeff would paint some folks up and all that, but we were selling replica belts. So he wanted the Hardy party. He wanted Kurt Angle. And Kurt, he was decent on t-shirt sales and different things, but man, people wanted a picture with Kurt. So Kurt getting a picture inside the ring, not a Polaroid, a digital photo after a show. But Don wanted to do a guitar party with JArrett and sell 15 or 20 guitars at $2.99 or $3.99. Do a Hardy party over here with a replica belt, and we can sell 7 or 8 of those. They get their face painted by Jeff real quick, and there's a $3.99. So we sell 7 or 8 replicas, and then you do 100 photos with Kurt and this and that, and then he even had Jay Lethal with the macho glasses. I mean, he just kind of had this whole buffet, and I'm like, this guy is, I mean, he has gone completely over the top. But I mean, it's StarCast, like value added, value added, value added, value added. So that is the way to go. And you're talking about at the carving station, whether it's Bridgestone, they're adding a whole nother Lexus.
Yeah.
It's what our world has truly got into. And I think you just have to scratch your head and said, why did it take so long? I don't know.